Hello and welcome back to Mirror's Signal podcast, your weekly podcast sponsored by Knowledgeably Instructor Training, award-winning CPD providers. Today's episode, we are joined by Richard, a recently qualified ADI, sharing his journey to qualifying and the changes he had to make through his training to successfully get through the process. If you're enjoying these episodes, make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening. And if you have any questions for me, you can find me in the Facebook group or on the Facebook page, and that's at Mirrors Signal Podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode. Richard, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. A little bit nervous. This is the first time I've done anything like this, so should be interested. So be nice, please.
I will do my best. Don't worry, I'm still just making it up. So we'll just go with it. Apparently, people like watching or listening. So
Good.
it'd be interesting to get some feedback in the comments. But I will be as nice as possible throughout all of the episode. Unless you start
Excellent.
talking about your trainers, then we'll see where that
Well,
goes.
yeah, we'll see. Good. Yeah, that's good.
So how was your training? We're here to talk about the qualifying and then about things that helped you on the way. So let's start there. How was your training to become a driving instructor?
Um, my training started off not so good, um, and then after a couple of months, progressively got better and better and better. Um, Unfortunately, I made what I think is a mistake in um, looking to become a driving instructor and going for the headlines on Google Google search. So type in "I want to become a driving instructor," up pops a list of stuff, and you click on the first thing. No research whatsoever, hadn't got a clue really, and then you get sold a pitch um, by the Nationals. I'm not going to say who it was, but I was sold a pitch. Um, it didn't turn out very well, unfortunately. Um, so I'd wanted to become a driving instructor for about 20 years. I did look at it when I was about 22, and I think I'd got as far as starting to train, but I was just too young. I didn't know what the commitment was like. I didn't have, I wasn't happy with myself in terms of being able to provide that sort of, do that sort of job. So it quickly fell apart. 20 years later, I decided, okay, the time is right. Um, let's do something I want to do. Let's go. Let's have a look at it. So I typed in Google search, up popped the list, clicked on the first one, rang them up, got their sales pitch, and signed up. Now I can see you laughing, Josh, because you know what I'm going to say. But it was a mistake. I should have done the research first. I should have signed. I should have logged into Facebook and looked at all the pages on there because there's a load of help out there. I should have done a little bit more research on what's involved, what the Nationals are offering. Is there anyone local? And then choose from there. But as I say, I didn't do that, and I ended up paying a not inconsiderable amount upfront to a national and didn't get the support. I don't think, anyway.
Got two questions based on what you've said there. And the first one is, why do you think so many of us make that mistake of signing up with that first company or one of the first four that pop up on Google? Why do you think that's the case?
I think for me, and I can only speak personally, but I think for me, it's you've set yourself, you've decided to go for it. You've decided, okay, I want to become a driving instructor. That's what I'm going to do. and your enthusiasm for it is there. You know, you want to get on with it. You want to get started. And I think that's why a lot of people then forget about doing that research, because the enthusiasm comes through. They're wanting to do something different. They're wanting to change their career, which is a big thing at the end of the day. So they're just plugging it in Google and going, okay, I'm going to go for that one. That looks good. They seem like a reputable company. They're a national company, so let's just go for that one and go from there. So I think it's a case of enthusiasm gets the better of them, from my perspective. That's what happened to me anyway. And I didn't have the knowledge to temper that enthusiasm. Okay, I've got that. I've got nationals that side. I've got local that side. I've got somebody else that side. Who's best for me? Does that make sense?
It does, and it's got me thinking, and I'm not sure we've really delved into this on an episode previously, but something that's really standing out to me, based on what you said there, is I think price point is probably a big factor as well. When I look at my own journey, I pretty much compared the top four,
Mm,
and two or three of them was a reasonable sum of money, but not extortionate.
mm,
And one of them was over double.
mm,
So the references for me was this one company that was double the price of the other three and their offers. So it's like, well, all four or five seem to be offering the same
mm.
thing on paper. So what's the point in paying nearly double?
Yeah,
And
but
you
you're
almost
paying.
feel like, well, that's research done, isn't it? I've compared
Yeah,
on price.
yeah,
They're reputable companies because they've got this big brand and we see their
yeah.
cars all over town. They must be a reputable company. So not only have we got the excitement and enthusiasm that I'm going to be a driving instructor and I can do it, and I don't know what price you paid, but if you look at these companies, you're probably getting an offer of all of this training for between probably about 900 quid and 1500 quid. It's like,
Yeah,
wait a minute.
and I paid the top end, so I paid 1,500 quid.
Yeah.
Um,
But it was probably cheaper than one of the others that you saw online.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the other thing that got me as well. I mean, after the initial enthusiasm, okay, they include this, they include that. They give you the car. All the service is done. They find you clients. There's further training, um, and it's not until afterwards and you sit down and think, okay, what have I just signed up for? And then you start reading through it, and you go, £275 a week for the car. A week, that's a lot of money. That's, you know, however many lessons. Um, and you're thinking, Christ, how am I going to get that back?
It's a day to a day and a half's wages, really, isn't it?
Exactly,
Before
easy.
before you
Yeah,
start making profit.
yeah, yeah. And that's every week. So, yeah. What was the second question?
The second question, I'm intrigued because I think it could be relevant for people that are thinking of becoming a driving instructor. And that's going back to when you changed your mind at around 22. And what was it that made you decide against it at the younger age?
Um, Confidence in myself is the main thing. I was really young, 22 is not old. I didn't have that confidence. I've never ever done anything like that before. I'd not done a great deal at school. Um, so it was a huge undertaking. And again, I just don't think I was old enough or confident enough or had enough self-belief to be able to do it.
Is that confident enough and enough self-belief to qualify as a driving instructor or run a business and do the job to a level that's required? What do you think that was around?
I think at the time it was to qualify as a driving instructor.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I'd given it that much consideration beyond that. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, probably a bad thing to say, but at that age, I wasn't. It was something I wanted to do. But did I have that belief that I could do it? That was the question, and I didn't think I did. So it sort of fell flat on its face.
So that leads me to another question. What was the change when you started the process this time round?
Good question. I needed to do something different. I've been working for a well-known international company based in York for about 6 years. Um, Management level, but just wasn't happy. Um, I wasn't myself. It was just too much. I couldn't. I needed to take a break. And then it built up and built up over that year. When was it? 2023. It just built up and built up. So after some time off, a chat with the wife, it sort of built up to a head, and I thought, no, that's it. I've had enough. I'm done. I've got to go to help me. So that's what I did, and we had to look at it, and we said, my wife said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, driving instructor. I wanted to do it 20 years ago. I want to do it again." Um, so that was part of it. Did I have that confidence? Probably not. But I think the wanting to do something different was the main thing. And with the support of my wife and various other people, gave me the impetus to move that forward and to sign on the dotted line and to go for it, because it was a big thing. Yeah, I'm without sounding, is it chauvinistic, but I'm the main breadwinner in the house. It's a job I've just resigned from. It's a relatively secure job, and I'm going to stop it all on the off chance that I may pass this driving instructor training that is that you've got about a 30% chance of getting through. That's a huge risk. It really is a huge risk. But I just felt I had to do it.
Sounds a little bit like me. I handed my notice in my career in the RAF. I ain't doing
Yeah,
this no more. I'm going to go and do something else. I'm going to be a driving instructor. And yeah, I was kind of all in from that point. I thought I was all in, but my research led me to a national school, and that was about as far as it led
yeah,
me until
yeah.
much later down the line. And I suspect we're not alone in that.
No,
Um, in that there's a lot of people that are maybe drawn to driving instructing, but as much as they're drawn to this line of work, they're almost moving away from a line of work that they don't want to do.
yeah,
And then
absolutely.
these national companies, I think they're positioned, I'm going back to the beginning now. I think they're positioned very, very clever in that most people that are leaving a career and building a new career, 1,500 quid's a reasonable amount of money, but we can get access to it.
Yeah,
It's not
it's not
unattainable.
unachievable. Yeah, absolutely.
And if you get a good salesperson on the phone, we can probably scrape it together in a couple of weeks. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, let's pay, let's get it done, let's get started.
And also, those nationals are targeting people within the different industries. They're targeting people from the army. They're targeting people as a HGV driver or something else. Yeah. So that's what you see, isn't it? That's the first thing you see as soon as you pop it up on Google.
And they've got their marketing on point.
Mm.
They might not have much else on point, but their
Yeah, but the
marketing's there.
marketing's good. It's really good. Yeah, top of the search list on Google. Target people who are wanting to change their jobs with the promise of quality training at an affordable price. But it doesn't quite work out like that.
It doesn't. And hopefully anyone that's listening that's at the research stage, this should hopefully just be ringing some alarm bells. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've had people on the show that have gone on to do really well with national companies. So I do think there's an element of it comes down to your trainer
Yeah.
and how you and your trainer get on and the quality of training. But there's also an element of you as the individual. If you can learn from lots of Zoom sessions and pre-recorded sessions and you can absorb that information and go and apply it, then do you know what? A national school might be for you. I'm not going
Yeah.
to say all of the nationals and all of their work is online, but there is a common theme from people that a large percentage of it was videos and Zoom
Yeah.
sessions. And you've got to look at that. They have to be making a profit somewhere. Where does the profit come in? Is it later down the line on the franchise?
Mm.
Or is it's £1,000 for training, but 30 hours is 1 to 50 on Zoom? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of questions to ask, and we're going to get on to. So you've done that. You've done the same as what I did. Ring a
Yeah.
national company, ring a few, get sold the dream, and the salesperson that sounded best at a price
Yep.
that we can afford.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what? I'll sign up. I'll do this.
Sign on the dotted line and away we go. And then what do you get?
So well, I mean, that's debatable. I'm going to try and cover myself so I don't have any of these nationals knocking on my door one day. But the theme's not good, let's put it that way. So when did you realize that maybe you needed a little more? Like what was the change? Because I've noticed that you're not with a national company now, you're with a more local company. I'm sure we'll get onto them later.
Yeah.
But what happened there and how did it come to that?
So I signed on the dotted line, and they um, sent me an email saying, "Congratulations, signed up. Um, here's some stuff. Read through it. Buy these books." I think it said, and start training for your part one. And that was about it. Literally, that was about it. So I thought, okay, we'll go ahead with it. I think in the first 2 months, I had two emails from them. Now I know you can do part one by yourself, but if I'm paying this money, I would expect some sort of support, some sort of, even a weekly catch up or something, or a Zoom session or something along those lines to see how I'm getting on, to see, what you're working on, how you're doing it. Is there anything we can do to help? There was just nothing. I had two emails in 2 months, and I need that support. That's why I've signed up to them. That's why, that's what they say they're going to do. But it just wasn't there. So it was in the lead up to Christmas of that year, 2023, and my wife was online, and she likes Facebook, so she was looking around on Facebook, seeing what she could find, and she found a local trainer. She messaged him. I didn't know anything about this. She knew I was unhappy, but she hadn't told me that she was messaging this person. And she messaged him just before Christmas, and he responded to her, and I had a conversation with him. I think it was on Boxing Day over Christmas, just a chat. And I think this chat turned out to be about an hour long, so it was quite a chat. And he told me what he would do, or what he could do, how he would do it, what support I'd have, and left it with me. Um, again, I had a chat with my wife because at this point I've already spent £1,500. Yeah, which is not an insignificant sum. Um, even now, it's not a small sum of money. And I'm now looking at somebody who's potentially going to cost me 2 or 3 grand by the end of it. So you're talking nearly 4.5, 5 grand now. That's a huge investment. That's a hell of a lot of money out of our finances to find. But I had to do it. I couldn't do I couldn't carry on with the national. I'd passed my part one, and when I passed it, I asked the national, when can I start my part two training? And they said, when you've got a test date. Now, I don't know if you remember back into early 2024, test dates were few and far between, and there was about a 6 month waiting list. So again, I've spent £1,500. I've managed to get myself through part one, but they want me to wait 6 months. What am I supposed to do in that 6 months? I don't know what my quality of driving is like. Nobody's told me. I haven't had the trainer. I haven't had anybody. So how am I supposed to carry on that journey and improve my driving, if I haven't, if they're not willing to train me before I've got a test date? So I agreed to sign up with this individual, and we met. I think it was halfway through January, and started the journey again with him.
Who was it?
Who was it? Mick Knowles from Xpert Driver Training, and also Knowledgeable Instructor Training.
Never
So
heard of him.
no, never heard of him. Do you know what? They've won a few awards recently. But yeah, the wife had played the blinder. I don't know how she found him. But since that point, it's just gone really, really well. I couldn't have asked for better training. I couldn't have asked for better support. And the way he puts together that training, the way they deliver that training, just worked for me.
I think you got lucky
I did get
finding
lucky, very
them
lucky.
on your
Yes,
doorstep.
yes,
First phone call, who am I going to reach out to?
yeah,
Knowledgeable.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So Mick Knowles, um, and it was the best decision we made. Yeah, so yeah, couldn't recommend him highly enough.
I
And he'll
mean,
be getting a big head.
I'm going to cut all of this out anyway. This is getting edited.
Yeah, okay, let's take this bit out.
But I think that shows as well. I mean, don't everyone go and ring Mick on Boxing Day this year?
No, no,
But to show that he's willing to have a chat at a time that's convenient and not sell anything, not make you an offer that you have to sign today.
no,
So this is what I can do. Go away. Give
yeah,
me a shout if you need anything. We'll go
yeah,
from there.
yeah. I think he didn't sell anything. He did tell me um, the cost of it, and I wasn't really interested in that. It was about what he could do, how he could help me, how it was set up, how he delivers it, and that conversation. As soon as I put the phone down, I think I knew that that was the right way to go. Quick chat with the wife, and I think we signed up the next day or something. I can't remember, but it was shortly after.
Unfortunately, it was Mick. Is his school Expert Driver Training?
Yes.
Yeah, we can give that a little plug as well. My sponsors allow
Yeah.
that.
No, 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 no. See.
So with the training moving forward, we're going to get some inside information on what training Mick does. So you sign up. How did you then find your training? Because this is what a lot of people want to listen for. They want to know, is the training they're getting at a level that it should be? And are they coming away feeling as they should do? So how was your training once you'd kind of signed up with Mick?
I felt I went away after every session happy that I'd learned something new. Happy that it was, what's the word? Client centered. Get that word in. That's good. It was like that. Yeah, it was. he was able to tailor the training around me. He was able to allow me to learn, um, and not just it's not just PowerPoint, and it's not just him telling me what to do. It's him getting me to understand and learn from what I'm doing, and what affects how different things affect what you're doing, if that makes sense.
Yes, and this has been something that I've mentioned multiple times on the podcast. The training you then started to receive is what we're told to deliver to learners,
Yeah,
but a lot of the time don't actually experience it. We're expected to deliver client-centered training to our learners, but the training we receive to become an ADI
it
isn't
isn't that.
client-centered.
No, no, you're just told what to do, when to do it, and how
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah. Whereas Mick, he didn't do that. His whole approach. I mean, I think there was when I signed up, there's 12 or 13 different modules that he'd set out, um, and the biggest thing I found was it was all combined. So he included part one, he included part two, and he included part three in every single one of those 12 sessions. It wasn't, okay, do your theory here, then we'll move on to this, and then we'll move on to that. It was all chucked in together in a cohesive way. Um, and it made sense from the off. You could see where he was going.
That's really important to make people aware because we know a lot of training is very much go do your part one, come
Mm.
back, we'll do your part two, come back,
6 months
we'll do
later,
your
yeah.
part three. Yeah. And the challenge with that is there's no context. You're studying for part one, but you're studying to pass the part one test.
Yeah,
You're
how
not
does that
linking
part
it.
one, yeah, how does that part one link in with part three? You know,
Yes.
what are you learning there? How does it
And
affect how you drive?
that's it. And then you've got, so your part one links to your part two and your part three. Your part two links to your part one and your part three. Your part three links to your part two and your part one.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people struggle when they get to part three because they've not got sufficient knowledge from part one
Hmm.
and they've not got the adequate understanding of skill from part two.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you've now got to help these learners.
Yeah.
How? How are
Yeah.
we supposed to do that?
How do you do it? Yeah. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Um, so it was the best decision I made, it's certainly. And Mick's really, really good at what he does. Really, really good at what he does. He's able to mold the sessions around what you're doing, what you're telling him, getting you to think about these things. And I think that's the biggest thing. Because if he's telling you what to do, you're not really, it's going in, out the other, maybe. But he's getting you to think about that, come up with a solution, or, and get you to um, find your own way. And he'll just point you along the way.
Interestingly, that's what we should be doing with our learners.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've been
Strange
trying to
that.
do. Yeah, since June last year, trying to do the same thing. And it's incredibly hard.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is really, really challenging to do it on a daily basis and not go into that instruct telling people what to do. Yeah. Um, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. I don't think so anyway.
I agree. It takes a lot of focus for me. I don't know how people do like the 12-hour days of instructing. I can't.
Mm,
I really struggle. 3 or 4 in a day. And I know about it if I've done four. I get home and I'm like, I've not got much left now.
yeah.
So how did you get on? We know you passed your part one.
Yeah.
How did you get on with your part two test?
So I think I passed my part one in January, just after I signed up with Mick. And then, um, as I say, I started training with Mick in the middle of January sometime. Um, and I'd managed to get a part two test date at the beginning of April. So I'd got a couple of months, 2 or 3 months with Mick. I think we did a session every 2 weeks, which tied into how I was working at the time. Um, and from the very first session, he got me driving. I think I had to pick him up from his garage because his car had broken down. So I had to go and get him from there and then pick him up. And then he basically he said, go for a drive. And he was looking at my driving. And that's quite nervous. You know, I've been driving 20 years. I've probably picked up a lot of habits in that time. I always remember one time actually that I think we were, for some reason, he'd asked me to park up in B&Q and he wanted me to do a reverse bay park. Now, I've always done a reverse bay park one way, but for some stupid reason, I decided to do it another way this time and got it absolutely wrong. It was nowhere near the parking space. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, um, I managed to get a test. I couldn't get one locally. I tried for Leeds, which is local to me, but there was just nothing. So I fished around a little bit and managed to get a test in Sunderland, which is really, really bad for me. Makes my head wobble going to Sunderland as a Newcastle fan. So it's not great, but we did it. I drove up to Sunderland the day before, had a look round just to get familiarisation of it, and then went up the next day and head was wobbling a bit, but I managed to get through the test with only 2 minors. So I was very, very happy. But before that, this is another point I wanted to make. I'm not the most confident person in the world. I'm quite negative. And in order to get through that test, drive up to Sunderland by myself, go up there, do a test and pass it, took a lot. But I had some tools to help me along.
Did you get those tools from?
So I'd done, I think it was the month before maybe, I'd done a workshop called the Driving Test Nerves Workshop. I'd heard about it. I know Mick had been to it quite a few times. He really raved about it. And it was all about helping yourself and helping your pupils with driving test nerves, and giving you the understanding and the ability to allay those fears, to allay those nerves or that anxiety, whatever it may be. But I used it for my part two. I've got a chimp on the back seat of my car. He's called Dave, and he was my negative thoughts on the part two. So any negative thoughts I sat on the back seat with Dave, and all I tried to do was focus on the positive. Richard, you've been driving 20 years, you know what you do. You've had some good training, you know that. You can do it. You know, just because it's in Sunderland and your head wobbles a bit doesn't mean that, you know, you're going to fail. So I being in that positive frame of mind helped me immensely to pass that part two and go up there with the knowledge, the understanding, not completely nerveless, but reduced nerves, and go and do well.
So it's the driving test nerves run by Diane Hall, I
Diane
believe.
Hall and Chris, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely no issues. Kind of giving them a plug, and they do a bit of work with Knowledgeable. I know they blog in the Kit
Yeah.
Mag as well, don't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
they do. Yeah. Yeah. Diane's great. And they're both great. And they both really know their stuff. And as I say, I didn't go into it with that much insight or expectation that it would work. But I came away absolutely amazed by it. And I have since used it on pupils as well.
So there's a good tip really for part two, because we put a bit of time on our learners and managing their nerves for driving tests, but we're people too,
Mhm.
and we suffer from nerves, anxiety, stress,
Yeah.
whatever it is, and some people worse than others. I think my nerves don't make me struggle. Like I get nervous, I get worried, but I seem to do all right in that level of stress. But I kind of get it. Some people just really can't cope, and
Yeah.
it's a real struggle for people. So seeing that you've used that course in preparation for a part two, I mean, let's be honest, how many PDIs are going to have access to that much knowledge of what's within the industry before the part two stage? You know, most people start reaching out and getting help normally after
Uh,
a failed part three or
Yeah.
two failed part threes. Then
Yeah.
it's like, let's look around and see who can help me,
Yeah.
whether it's driving test nerves and managing that, or whether it's extra support. So it's interesting to see that that has an effect at the part two stage for you.
Yeah. Of course it does. Yeah. Absolutely. If you're right, not many people are going to know about it, but it should be out there. You know, there are lots and lots of people out there that can help you, and it's not just the nationals. You know, there are lots of people in Yorkshire, in Manchester, wherever it might be, if you do your research. And I think that's the key thing. If you're coming into this industry and you want to become a driving instructor, do your research, dig down, go into Facebook, look at the local groups, find a few names. You've got to. You can't just go with the first thing you see.
No, I mean, for some people, the first thing they see might be ideal, but it's it's not very likely for most. So we've done part two. You got through that. You went to an area you wasn't familiar with and wasn't necessarily a fan of, but
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
passed. So how was your part three? We know that you're getting good training, and we're not going to delve too much into it because you've already covered it. Like Mick had modules, he had structure, he
Yeah.
was linking all of the stages. So I'm going to make a big assumption here that once you pass part two, the structure of the training probably didn't change too much in
No,
preparation for the part three.
no. But I think what I would like to point out is, or make a point of, is the pink license.
Okay.
So I passed my part two in April. Um, we then did, we then finished off those 40 hours that you're supposed to do, plus a few more training. And then it was time to make a decision. Do I go onto a pink license? Do I not go into a pink license and do it a different way? If I go into a pink license, do I do it part time? Do I do it full time? Can I earn enough to cover me? Is it right to be earning while you're learning? So we had this conversation with Mick. I had a conversation with my wife, and we decided it was best for me that I go full time on a pink license. And there was a couple of reasons behind it. One, um, I can't, I couldn't have done a job doing 40 hours a week or whatever it was, working for another company, and do the driving instructor as a side thing on, a couple of hours every night or whatever it might be. I had to be either all in or not at all because it wouldn't have worked for me. So it's then the question of, okay, and Mick said this to me, you can do it full time, but you need to give yourself time to learn. So then it's a question of, okay, how much time, how does that learning take place? What am I going to get from it? How many lessons can I do a day and still learn? what do I need financially to see me through? Um, and the point I'm trying to make is, I think I've seen quite a few bits where people say you shouldn't be doing it to earn any money, to make a living out of it. You should be learning. But I think you can do both. You can do both. I did both. It wasn't easy, and I may not have been earning as much as I wanted, but I did do both, and I did manage to get through it, and I did learn what I needed to learn at the time, and it gave me that experience. So from June, when I started on Pink, through to September when I qualified as a part on my as an ADI, it gave me that knowledge, it gave me that experience. Mick come in and sit with me and give me, even more tips and even more help. So it just worked for me.
What did your average day look like as a PDI? Because we know that there are PDIs that when we say full time, like there's no time left for learning. So did you have a rough structure for how you was gonna make enough money to survive and still learn at the same time? What was that structure?
So for me, that structure was 3 lessons a day, 5 days a week, with an hour in between each lesson. So it gave me time to not only make a note of what the people had done and how they were getting on, but also for me to reflect on how I'd got on. And then at the end of the day, I wasn't tired. Well, I was tired, but I wasn't absolutely knackered. I could still sit down, think about what I'd done that day, go through the reflection and see what had happened and do some further training if I needed to or whatever I wanted to do. I'd got the time to be able to do that. So that's what my week looked like. 3 lessons max every day. And that was the level I aimed it at all through from June to September.
I think that hour between lessons is really important
Mm,
because if you do back to back to back lessons and then try and reflect at the end of the day, when we're learning a new job, that's tiring in itself. We're learning a new job. We're dealing with different people every couple of hours.
yeah.
And we're probably not going to remember all of what happened on the first lesson if we're reflecting at the end of the day
Mm,
from a fatigued state.
yeah.
So I think that's really important for people in that allow time between lessons for you.
Mm,
And there's the arguments, there always will be. PDI licenses for learning, not earning. It's like, well, most people have got just shy of £300 a week to try and find,
yeah.
right? And a
Yeah.
mortgage to pay.
Yeah.
What
How
are
are
we
you
going
going
to
to
do?
do that? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You've got to be able to pay your bills, but give yourself the best chance. And as you say, put in that hour, make it suit yourself. But you can earn while you learn, and you can do it full time. Um, and for me, that was the best way to do it. I couldn't have done it the other way. I wouldn't have got through it. I couldn't have done it part time or 2 or 3 hours a week. It just wouldn't have been possible. I can't, you know, deal with that.
It's another point for people to be aware of is understanding yourself.
Mm,
What's going to be best for you? It's not about what's best for your trainer or the company that you've signed up to, because you might be with them for your full career, but on average, you're not going to be. So
mm,
you need to do what works for you. And for me, not being on a PDI license and doing a few hours a week for free, that helped me. But I think it also helped that my job wasn't all that demanding. So
mm,
it worked. I got lucky. But for others, yeah, you need to understand your own personal situation, but also yourself. How are you going to get the maximum amount out of this And I mean the maximum amount in development and training, not necessarily the maximum amount financially, because that's not necessarily a recipe for a good result towards the end.
Yeah.
So you found your structure, it worked for you. How did you get on with the part 3?
Um, the it's not easy, is the first thing to say. It's not easy. It's really, really stressful. And there's a lot of advice out there, what pupil to pick. How do you plan your part 3? What do you say? When do you say it? How do you say it? What do I need? There's so many questions out there, so much information out there. But for me, having a good trainer like Mick, he was able to support me in all of those things. So he's basically said to me, look, pick your pupil. Got to be able to, they need to be able to drive to a certain degree because you've got to get them to the area, and they've got to be able to drive around there. And then base your part 3 on the needs of that pupil on that day. You can't do anything else. You can't go on what somebody did last week. It's just not possible. You've got to do it for that pupil on that day based on what you're seeing. So I picked my pupil. I had a very, very loose plan. I mean, very, very loose. Okay. So this pupil could drive. He'd done small roundabouts, but he hadn't done bigger roundabouts. Now, where the test centre is in York, it's a big shopping area, big industrial centre. So there's a lot of roundabouts around there and a lot of bigger roundabouts. So we decided, okay, we've done the smaller ones there. Progression would be to go on to the bigger ones, and that's what I'm going to do for my part 3. So we picked the pupil up. My head was banging. I was quite stressed. We had about an hour beforehand, maybe 45 minutes. We'd identified a few faults with the accelerator, I think it was, or the clutch. I can't remember which, but he kept dumping it. I think it was the clutch. He kept dumping it too quickly, changing through the gears. So directly before the test, we stopped. We had a chat, worked out what the issue was, tried to rectify it, and then drove into the test centre. So the goal was the approach to roundabouts, approach to the busier roundabouts, and how he could transfer what he'd done on the smaller ones onto the bigger ones. So we got to the test centre. The examiner came out. I asked the people. I think I asked just to go over his goal for the lesson. What did he want to achieve from this lesson? What was his aim? And he obviously said, I want to be able to approach roundabouts and join them safely and understand the process for doing that. So we had a quick discussion about what he was going to do, how I could help, and then went out the test centre. Immediately out the test centre, there's one roundabout, not a very big one, but there is a roundabout. I think we got over that one without any issues, and he got to the second roundabout. We stopped. He then decided to go and pulled out in front of someone, so I had to duel him. I'm thinking, for crying out loud, why do you do that to me now? What are you doing to me? So I thought, okay, I've got to stop. I've got to, discuss this and see what's going on. So we got round the roundabout, and we went back, and I found somewhere to park up, and we discussed what happened. I asked him, okay, what were you thinking at that point? when you stopped at the roundabout, what were you thinking? I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines, somebody behind me. I panicked a little bit. I wanted to move off. So that's why I went, and I didn't see, because the exit before us to the right of us was slightly behind, and quite, if you're not looking in the right correct way, you're going to miss it. So we worked out what had happened. We worked out why it happened. The reasons, what he was thinking, how he was feeling. Worked out what he could do better next time round, and then went out again. But I made one mistake. I left one thing off the table, and it cost me a good 3 or 4 points at the end of the test. But we'll come back to that. So we went round, and I did the whole test on 3 roundabouts within 400 yards of the test centre. It was it was quite good. But as I said, the head was banging. I was really, really nervous. I was quite stressed. You're trying to look at everything and deal with everything, and you're missing, or I was missing, something that was quite plainly obvious. And I'm sure I did see it at the time, but I just didn't deal with it. So there was an element of that. But you're trying to think of everything. You're trying to think, okay, he's done this. Do I need to stop? Can I deal with it now? He's done something else. What do I need to do with that? What questions am I going to ask him? How am I going to respond to him? And 40 minutes was over like a flash. And the worst of it is, I rolled up to the test centre. Guess who's there? Mick. I think you're on mute, Josh. I don't know.
I disappeared.
Oh, there you go. You're back again. Yeah. Mick Knowles had turned up at the test centre. Do you want me to come with you? No, absolutely not. No way. Not going to happen. So when we got back to the test centre, Mick was there, and myself, Mick, and the lady examiner. There's a little seat area where you can sit outside. It was a lovely day, and we just sat outside on the wall. And she gave me my result, which was good, thankfully. Passed first time, and I got a score of 38, which for me, I'm quite happy with. I was amazed to get through. But going back to that point where we pulled up initially for the pull out on the roundabout, the one thing I didn't do, which cost me, I think Mick said it cost me probably 3 or 4 points, was to clarify the learner understood what the risk of him doing that was. I'd gone through everything else. Yeah, I've gone through what did he understand the mistake he made? What was he thinking? What was he feeling? How did that impact him? What was he going to do different? But I just didn't clarify or go through the risk. What happens if I wasn't there? What would have happened? That car would have T-boned you, or there'd have been an accident, or whatever it may be. But because I didn't do it, I lost quite a few points on that. But the relief at the end of the day was huge. And as I said, I'm not the most confident people, quite negative. But again, I've tried to use that Dave on the back seat. I've tried to use some other methods that Diane and Chris will, if you go on the course, talk about to help me through that. And it did help. I was quite not confident, but positive. And for me, that's huge. And the result was good. And
You're one of very few PDIs that do pass first time. And to get a score like that will give you all the credit and not Mick and his training.
Well, no, I'm going to have to give Mick the credit, because I wouldn't have got there with Mick. There's no way I'd have got there otherwise. Not first time. I passed my part 2 first time. I passed my part 3 first time. And as you say, not many people do that. And it's all because of how Mick was able to train me and what the information he gave me and how he went about that.
I think it would be interesting to see the first, second, and third time pass rate for different schools and trainers. Not in a bad way, but I think the way some of the trainers structure the training, like you were saying, it makes sense. And you was also guided towards people to help you personally as well. It's not just, right, I'm going to teach you how to be a driving instructor. So wait a minute, you're not very confident. I know someone that can help with that,
Yeah,
and they have these workshops. Which one?
yeah,
Which one do you fancy going on?
yeah. And that's what I did. And I also went on one of the knowledgeable instructor training courses, the standards one. It's a day's workshop. I went all the way down to Peterborough for it. And I think I was a PDI at the point, but that knowledge and that training there, it reaffirmed what Mick had been telling me, which you would expect it to because it's coming from the same person. But having him go through it, and then having him and Lee go through it in the workshop in a different setup in a different way, but it reaffirmed what he'd been telling me, reaffirmed what I should be doing. And it was, the stuff Kit produce is, the video of the workshops are, really, really outstanding. The amount of information on there. So I'd recommend anyone to that. Really would.
There is, if people keep listening to this episode, there's a discount code that goes out for their Part 3 client-centered workshop, which I think is the one you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
that's it.
And it's the one I went on. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 weeks into my preparation for my standards check. So it's nice to hear that PDIs are seeing benefit from it as well. And there is a lot of information on that course that can really help people understand what's expected of us as ADIs, because a lot of people think that it's this magic formula that we need, and you need to tick all of these boxes. And that's not really the case. We need knowledge, we need understanding, and we need to help develop our learners around that. So hearing that you've been exposed to more than just one trainer is nice to hear, and seeing that it pays off. When you put the work in
It
with
does
good
pay off.
people,
Yeah, it does
and
pay off.
you've not just kind of scraped to pass, you've got a good score on your first part 3.
Mm,
So it shows that training paid off.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. And life's been good ever since.
Is it what you expected since qualifying?
Is it what I expect? What did I expect? I mean, obviously, I've been doing it for 3 or 4 months as a PDI. But it's slightly different, isn't it? Because the prime aim is to learn, to be able to give your pupils the best lesson possible, and to get them to be able to drive safely and to pass a test, and to do it in a client-centered way. So the only thing I've taken off, I'm still learning. I'm still learning a lot every day. But I can't remember the question. What was the question?
Is it as you expected it to be since qualifying?
It's better. It's better than I expected. Yeah, I couldn't. I've made the best decision well, the wife and I have made the best decision, in doing this. She'll tell you it's, I've been a lot happier and um, come bouncing in every night, after a good day or a test pass or whatever it may be. Um, but it's a huge difference to what I was back in October in 2023.
You set out on that goal, found a good trainer, qualified, and are now an ADI. It's
And
great.
had good support. And had good support.
Yeah, but that's what
Yeah.
people need, isn't it? I think that's what some people are lacking, and you identified it early on in
Mm.
your journey at part
Yeah.
one. Like you get two emails in the same amount of months, and it's like, is this support? Is this
Yeah.
the level that I'm going to get? Good luck through the rest of it if it's based on a couple of emails every now and then.
Yeah. Just doesn't work. It's not going to work for me, you know.
No,
Um,
I'm not sure who it's going to work for really, unless someone's basically training themselves, at which point you've paid a lot of money for a couple of emails potentially.
mm,
But
mm.
there we go. Hopefully that highlights what people can do when they're thinking of becoming a driving instructor. We say it all the time on these shows that do your research, but I think this really highlights that in you can change partway through and it might cost you some more money.
Just a
But
little
I
bit.
guess, yeah. Now, though, now you're qualified, was the financial side of it worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's worth all the expense. It's worth all the effort. Um, and every day I see improvement in pupils. I see that light bulb moment, and it gives me this job satisfaction as well. You
What
couldn't ask
more
more.
can we want?
Exactly. Job satisfaction. The money's not too bad. Being self-employed is a bit of a head scratcher, but I'm learning. I am learning. Making sure you get
That's
that tax
another
right.
episode. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to say that's
absolutely.
another episode in itself. We're filming now, and we're what 5 days after the end of the financial year.
Yeah.
I I'll be getting my accounts to my accountant at some point because I just don't deal with them. I'm going to pay someone to deal with that mess because it's not for
I
me.
decided to go for an accountant. I got an email off them today, asking for a few things. So they're dealing with that. I think I've got enough tax rise, so I'm quite happy.
I've
But I'm
not. I'm just
sure.
going to work some overtime.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, life's good. Couldn't, for me personally, it's the best decision I made. Um, Job satisfaction, the money's there. It's hard work. It's emotionally hard work. It's mentally hard work. It's um, the amount of emotion, the amount of nerves you've got for the pupil is hard work. But it's great.
What a great message. What I do have now, Richard, I've got some listeners' questions. Do you mind if I
Eric,
go through some of those with you?
go on. I'll try and answer them.
So before we get to listeners' questions, here is your discount code from our sponsors, Knowledgeably Instructor Training. And the discount code is MSP10, and that will get you 10% off their client-centered learning Part 3 and Standards Check award-winning workshop. That is MSP10 for 10% off. So the first question from Penny, we've covered it briefly, but I'd like to be a bit more specific now. So the first question, what attracted you to the job? That's Penny's question. But I'd like, yeah, what is it about being a driving instructor? What drove you to want to be a driving instructor?
So I think for me, as I said before, it was something I'd wanted to do 20 years ago and never actually got there. That was the first reason. Um, Secondly, I needed a change. I had to do something different. Um, And I think what I saw in a driving instructor is job fulfillment, and also the knowledge that me personally can do that, or could do that job, or felt comfortable doing that job. And I hadn't had that in any other job. With the training Mick gave me, well, it was the belief that I could do that job, and the satisfaction of seeing people progress, learn, progress, pass a test. And that's quite a life-changing moment, isn't it? Somebody passing a driving test. It opens up so many possibilities. So for me, I saw job satisfaction, and I felt I could do it.
Great answer.
Yeah, I think. I think previously the jobs I'd done, I mean, I'd worked my way up into management, but I always felt like an imposter. And this is the first job I've had in a long time that I haven't felt like an imposter.
Why do you think that is?
Because I've had, well, let's not go there just yet. Because I think it's something I've wanted to do. And I've had some sort of self-belief that I can do it. Previously, and also I've had good training. And it's not but also I've had really, really good training. But previously, it's always felt like I was. Have you heard of imposter syndrome?
Yep.
Yep. So I had that a lot. I'd worked my way up to management, and I'd had that a lot. Never felt comfortable. Never felt properly trained. Never felt I had the tools to deal with it. But this time around, it's completely different. I don't know whether that answers Penny's question, but
we went well off track from Penny's question. I
well,
asked you a question on your answer. I fell back into questions from Josh. So let's get back to Penny. What do you think is the best part of the job?
Seeing pupils progress, seeing that progression through the lessons from day one, from lesson 1 to lesson 15, 20, seeing that moment when it changes their life. I've got a driving license. Seeing that light bulb moment. You've been working on something for weeks, and then suddenly, bang, it's there, and they've got it. That's the best thing about it.
Love it. The next question, the complete opposite. Is there anything you don't like about the job?
Anything I don't like? I think "don't like" is probably too strong words. I get quite nervous for pupils at test day. Quite invested in it. I'm not sure whether that's a good or a bad thing. I think it's probably a good thing for me, but it's not something I expected, and I don't know whether it's a bad thing or not. But it wasn't something I was expecting either way.
I get that.
But anything negative, I don't have anything negative. The car's expensive to run, maybe. It's a lot of money to keep the car going. But from a day to day, no, nothing. Sorry.
Like that. It's okay. That was, a good answer. I don't think there are many negatives to this job. And if you do find negatives with this job and things that you don't like, I don't think it's a job you can do kind of half-hearted.
No.
I wouldn't want to. The responsibility that we have to these drivers, I wouldn't want to be coming in half-hearted and not
No,
be
you've got to be
passionate
all in,
about
haven't
it.
you? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that answer. Um, Nick has given me some questions that I've got to try and decipher myself and
Excellent.
frame them into a question for you. Um, uh, how do I put this in a question? I'm going to leave this in just to say thank you to Nick for making me try and work this question. It's all in Messenger, by the way, this one. Um, so you've answered this, but I guess maybe we can delve a little bit. So we've spoke about your trainer, obviously, Mick, but were you exposed to a team at any point? So was there other PDIs that you could bounce ideas off? Were there other people you could talk to? Was you getting information from elsewhere, or was it very much Mick was your kind of instructor, your mentor, and pointed you in the right direction? How was that?
So I think initially Mick was the trainer and was the mentor. I think as we went along, um, there were other people within the Xpert um, school driver training company that I could go to and ask for help if I wanted to go to lessons. But primarily Mick, a little bit of other instructors, um, a lot of stuff Kit did, and also I actually used an instructor up in Sunderland. I asked for help up there. So I fished, I put the feelers out a little bit to see if I could get some help up there. As I say, primarily with Mick and the group within Xpert,
So
and Facebook as well, obviously.
yeah. So it does sound like, yes, you had your one trainer, your one person,
Yeah,
but there was a team that you could kind of call upon if needed. You were supported
yeah,
in more than just one way
yeah,
if you needed it. Yeah.
yeah.
Next question. Going into the part three, if you could have been magically better at one thing, what would it be?
Asking that bloody question. And also, taking that aside, also not forgetting the basics. Yeah, there was some basic stuff that the learner wasn't doing that I'm pretty sure I knew about, but just didn't deal with. So if I did it again, I'd make sure that I was looking at everything, although I was, but looking at everything and dealing with it. Yeah, I think I was, because of the stress levels and there's a lot going on. I just hadn't remembered, hadn't seen it, or whatever it may be. But if I had, and with that question, I'd have been with you on an A grade. That's that small distance, but it's really hard to get. I think
It is
the plan was
crazy.
good. Yeah, the plan was good, although it wasn't a plan. But we've discussed this. The area was good. It was perfect. The pupil was good. It's just those little bits here and there.
So that's what I was about to say. It's crazy the small things that are needed
Mm,
to get to that higher grade. I mean, I lost 7 points
mm,
for one fault that I'd not noticed, and I can't really argue with any of them on a paper point of view. Like
yeah.
it links to all seven competencies where I've dropped points. So I get that. So I think if I could magically do something, it'd be have an extra set of eyes as a driving instructor.
You do need them, don't you? Really
Yeah,
do need them. Eyes in the back of your head. eyes in the front and side, and you may get everything, but it's not guaranteed
So
because they'll
true.
always do
And then,
something you're not expecting.
yeah, and that's the trick, isn't it, with this job? We need to be anticipating and expecting everything. And it's not always possible, but the more you do it, the
Yeah, I've,
easier it becomes.
I've had a few moments like that. Yeah,
I would say they become less, but I'm still learning every day.
yeah,
So so when you figure it out, let me know.
yeah.
Um, and then yeah, let's follow on from that question for Nick. So he asked what one thing would you have liked to be magically better at before your part three? What one thing would you like to be better at now?
Reflection.
Was that reflection?
Yes, reflection. Yeah. I find it really, really difficult to reflect, and I always have. So I'd magically like to be better at that.
It's a nice answer.
Mm.
I
Mick
I
loves
think there's
reflection,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I've always found it difficult to analyze and pick apart what I'm doing um, to that sort of level. I can see where I'm going wrong, but to actually note that down, look at it, reflect on it, what can I do better? I find that really difficult, and I've not really got the hang of it. I try, and I keep on trying, but I've not really got the hang of it.
I mean, looking at your results through the training to become an ADI, something must have been working. Like
Something
whatever
must
it
have
was you
worked.
were doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Something's worked, but what it is, I don't know. Because, as I say, the reflection's always been incredibly difficult for me. But if that magic thing was to happen, that would be it. The ability to look at each lesson, reflect on it, identify what I need to do, how am I going to make it better, and put it into practice.
I like that. Nice answer. So the final question is from me. Do you have any final messages for the listeners?
Other than the ones we've already mentioned.
It can be re-emphasizing those, it can be anything else, tips for people, whatever you want now. This is now your time.
Oh, God. It's all about. So we've discussed it before, but do your research. That's number one. Do your research. Work out what you're going to do. What works best for you. Is it a national company? Is it a local company? Is it something else? Is it by yourself? So take time to do that research. Go onto Facebook, go onto social media, go onto the websites, go onto Google, whatever it may be, and look at everything. Um, give think about how you work your training out. How does it impact you? Have you got the time? Can you do that pink license full time? Does that work for you? Can you do it part time? Is that better for you? But try and work it out between you and your family and your trainer. Talk to them. Talk to people outside of that as well to try and get as much information as you can. Because it is out there if you look in the right places. Anything else? Get as much training as you can. Training doesn't stop once you've done your 40 hours. I think that's one of Mick's favourite sayings. Keep on going. Look for that CPD. Look for whatever's out there, in terms of enhancing what you already know. Keeping up that training so you can then give it to your pupils. Anything else? Don't be afraid to go outside the box. So don't be afraid to do a workshop like the driving test nerves workshop. Yeah, because it may help you think outside the box a little bit. because it helped me. And I wasn't that way. I hadn't thought like that ever before, so you can learn something from it, and enjoy it. It is a journey. It's personal to you. You're doing it for whatever reasons you've decided, but enjoy the journey. But research it first. That's it.
Great summary from today's episode. I think there's the proof's there. Everything that you've said, we've covered in the episode and gone into some depth with it as to why it's relevant, and very much so now. And I think it's going to become more so over the next year or two, depending on what the DVSA do, because the training is very much that there are very different levels of trainer out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So get that
Hugely
research
different.
done.
Yeah, get the research done. Identify what works for you, and go with it. And then, fingers crossed, you'll be one of the successful ones.
Great message. Richard, thank you so much for the episode tonight and your time. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed tonight.
Thank you very much, Josh. It's been great. Came in slightly nervous, but I've actually managed to talk for how long now? An hour and 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
I reckon the episode will be about an hour and 20.
There you go. So that's quite something for me.
You did
Thank you very much for
challenge.
inviting me. Yeah, I did.
That's fine. Thank you very much. So thank you to Richard for today's episode, and thank you to the show's sponsors, Knowledgeably Instructor Training, award-winning CPD providers. You can find all of their award-winning content at www.adikit.co.uk. So make sure you check them out. You could also have a look at Talk in Send with Dr. Julia Malkin, MBE. Now, this is a membership on Patreon where you get access to over 70 videos to help you understand your neurodiverse learners. And you can find that on Patreon, or you can get more information on the Facebook page at Talk in Send with Dr. Julia Malkin, MBE. Thank you.